you anytime, any chance they get, and they like really like want to be in the camera. If you put this camera up, Stripe either walks away, turns around, or like shoves her face in the camera so hard that, you can't see anything.
I see. I just like, I see a lot of streamers, we all have our pets. And it's like the dogs, yeah, the dogs are always just ready to, I don't think they're camera hungry. I think they're just ready to
Sure.
just be picked up and shown off and whatever. But cats, you try to pick up a cat and show them to the camera. It's like this awkward.
My last cat kind of enjoyed it though. But he liked being picked up. Stripe doesn't.
Cool. Well, I'm rolling.
Yeah,
I'm sure you are too. We can get started.
I'm letting you start this one this time.
Oh, cool. All right, everybody. Welcome to the First Steep. This is a very innovative, cutting edge live podcast recording with myself, Elise Peterson of Tea Tea, and Colin of Baca Studios. Would you like to introduce yourself, Colin?
No, it's always funny to me when people say that because it's not even a real business. It's just what I, happen to call myself. Um, yeah, I don't have as impressive of credentials as Elise. I just enjoy drinking tea and making content. I don't stream though, not anymore. I am right now, though. But
Yeah, he's being a poser. He's being a poser right now, all for the
I'm a
sake of this
poser.
wonderful podcast. Thank you very much for that, Colin. And this is called The First Steep. Colin and I are now on episode 8 of putting this together, where we drink 2 different teas in parallel to better understand the processing and the terroir of the tea. Sometimes they are parallels, sometimes they are complements, or sometimes they are opposites. And through that process, we can understand a lot about where tea comes from and how the processing and the conditions of the tea plant and the environment can affect the tea. All with the hope that we can all learn to be more knowledgeable on tea just through our intuition. Today's episode, we are drinking, or we are doing a focus on the Assamica variety. We are drinking one pure Assamica tea, a handmade black tea, during the second flush, or the monsoon season of Assam, India.
Oh, is that
And
monsoon?
yeah, that's monsoon. Yeah,
I thought that
monsoon.
was third, but I literally don't. I literally, that shows how much I know. Is I thought that was third.
Yeah, monsoon is the summer. That's the summer months. It's yeah, the intense rains come, and so that's usually like May and June. It could be considered a third, because in Assam, the plucking season, or the spring first flush, does happen quite early. So it is
Mm.
possible that the third flush can be into the monsoon season, but that this one is the summer flush, during the monsoons. And the other tea will,
Bitcoin agrees.
yeah, Bitcoin agrees. Bitcoin's like, yeah, duh. Bitcoin's the
My
dog
bad,
that's,
sir.
I thought I was being clever by locking him out of the studio before starting. I didn't think ahead that he was going to be at the door, barking to come hang out with us. But hopefully he gets tired. And I have a heater set up in his bed. It's like, why wouldn't you just like want to? But there's action in here, and your cat's here, so he's. I might let him in. If he becomes really bad, I'll let him in. And the other tea that we're drinking is also a black tea, but it is made with a cultivar that is a cultivated variety consisting of Assamica that came via Myanmar or Burma, that was breeded with the native wild variety of Taiwan that's just called shan cha, or mountain tea. Not a whole lot. We've talked about this before too, Colin, when we looked at that ruby white.
Yeah. So the one and the Ruby 18 that I have is I got it in like a sampler pack of like the Ruby 18 origins or whatever, and it came with a Assamica as well as some Camellia formosensis.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, which is supposedly the wild cultivar or the wild varietal, but Regardless, the Ruby 18 is a little more controlled than most. And but yeah, so
That's a
I
really educational way to sell that tea. So you can
yeah, I haven't
taste all of
done
them.
a like full side by side, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a really cool way to sell it, and I'm excited about it. So
Yeah, cool, awesome. Better than I've seen some vendors. I saw one. They were trying to sell bad tea.
mhm.
Like I think it was a like a shung pour coming from a less than reputable place that this vendor had openly admitted they had been kind of scammed with this tea, which happens a lot. It happens a lot for vendors. You know,
Sure.
you work with the supplier or producer, and they say, "Oh, you're gonna buy this. This is coming to you," and when the tea arrives, it's something different. But they were actually selling it. So they were admitting that it was bad tea, but selling it as an educational type of tea.
Interesting.
You know, which is interesting. I don't know. I think the
Hmm.
ethics on that is kind of because they did also admit that they like demanded a refund and got a refund, but then they're selling it. You know, which is kind of like what's the ethics behind that? But regardless, I think it is kind of interesting to expose people that are wanting to learn about tea to some of these like experimental or not so good teas because you can learn a lot in the process.
Hmm. Very much agreed. So which one do you want to start with?
Yeah, let's just start with the basic. Let's start with that monsoon magic. I mean, I hate to call it basic; it's definitely not basic tea, but
No, I
in the
feel you.
sense, in the sense of just the Assamica alone, you know, which is called Assamica because it's derived from Assam, which is where this tea is grown. So kind of the OG.
Shit, I forgot a waste bowl.
Hello, Tef. Welcome in. We are recording a live podcast now with the intent. We have yet to like edit and release all these podcasts, but we do have the intent of publishing these podcasts. Um, we'll keep you updated when that happens. So that is the reason why Colin and I may not respond to chats in real time. But we typically do take a couple of breaks throughout the session so that we can address questions or whatever. So feel free to throw some questions our way if you have them. I will try my best to integrate them into our conversation. But yeah, don't get your feelings hurt that we're not validating your thoughts immediately.
So I am gonna cow drink this. I've got a big old pot here.
What'd you call that? Cow drink?
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
So what I'm gonna do is I've got only 3 grams for 200 mil. I'm gonna pour my water and steep it for a bit. Pour about half of it out, and then immediately refill it while I'm drinking the other bit, and then pour half of it out, and then immediately refill it, and do that a few times.
Smart.
Yes.
Interesting method. I'm all about the interesting methods. I like, you know, I like that. I've seen that with even your style of brewing. Every time you're always tweaking it a little bit, trying out something different every time.
Well, so that's something, and I'm actually okay. I'm glad you bring that up,
Yeah.
because like that's something that I thought about a lot lately because on various like online forums, I guess I don't know. I always like see people asking, well, how do I brew this? How do I do this? How do I brew this? And it gets frustrating after a while because what I always want to tell people is like you just kind of figure shit out. Like the only reason I know that XYZ tea is good when I make it like this is because I did it one time and I was like, oh, that was really good. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so that's just kind of I don't know. It's been on my mind lately, and I've been trying to be a little bit more experimental with how I make things, just to kind of try new things out. But,
Yeah, that's great. That's a smart way to approach it. Because even if you do things super technical, it's really hard
Hmm.
unless you're, infusing your tea for 7 minutes or something. If you're talking about tweaking the degree of your water temperature by a couple degrees or a couple of seconds in brewing, it's so minuscule, the difference that you'll
Hmm.
see, that it almost takes away from the really important experience of drinking tea and preparing tea, which is just the
Enjoying
mindfulness, like
tea.
the relaxation. Yeah, the rigidity kind of fucks with that. So
Oh yeah. I felt myself actually getting way too rigid with a lot of my tea drinking recently, and what I ended up doing was I've been drinking a lot of tea like in a mug, rather than like making having big sessions, and that has kind of like taught me to be a little bit less focused on the practice of the tea and just on the tea itself. But are these like broken leaves, or are they?
partially broken. Yeah, you'll see some specks,
Mhm.
some broken pieces throughout. But ultimately, this is a full leaf. Okay, so we say Assamica. I guess I should do a really basic explanation of what that means. Among the
Sure.
Camellia sinensis plant, there are two main varieties that are used for producing tea: Assamica and sinensis. Sinensis means coming from China. Those leaves and plants are noted with surviving at higher altitudes, more extreme temperatures, and having smaller leaves. While the Assamica variety is noted for, lower elevations, warmer, more temperate climates, and wider, broader leaves. So there's a bit of debate about the real origins of the Assamica plant, and its association with other broad-leafed tea plants that we love in a place called Yunnan, China. A little bit of
Oh yeah.
a debate going on, if they are related or the same. But
And even like other places potentially as well where they
yes,
could have come from. Yeah. I
yeah,
know that like I have recently, I guess, within the last several months, been told that it might not even just be Assam or like Yunnan. There could be any number of places.
yeah, yeah.
But
Like the Arunachal Pradesh. The
mhm,
that story that I shared with you where I saw that bamboo tea, that bamboo crude chung being produced.
sure.
Their leaf variety was definitely Assamica, very similar to
Mhm.
the varieties that you see in Assam. There's some really cool storytelling involved in the development of the Indian tea industry. There's of course the famous tale of the Scottish botanist that went to China and posed as a Chinese person and collected seeds and skill, and brought that to India, which when they planted that did not succeed because the terroir was not right. And
Right.
they had already been told that there was tea in India already. This Assamica variety was already there. And so some time was wasted. I think that's a part of the story people don't really like to admit and talk because it kind of waters down and dilutes a little bit the romanticization of the tea that was brought from China. Because I don't think it was until like the second attempt to bring tea from China to India, and they planted it in Darjeeling, which does have the higher elevation, which is more hospitable for the sinensis variety. But that's just a little off topic, but I think
I mean,
provides
it's
some
about
context.
tea.
It's about tea, yeah. It provides some context to understand the difference. Why there's a difference and why some grows in one area and
Sure.
some grows in another. But yeah, the Assamica variety is supposedly indigenous to the Assam area, although, we could ask questions, well, where did those come from? Where did those seeds come from? And that's an exciting part of tea, I think.
There really is no answer, and like I don't. That's like one thing too that I don't think there needs to be an answer either. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's just kind of like, why do we need to know?
yeah.
But
Well, people don't like to be working under false narratives, or
sure.
they don't like to be lied to. And so I think that that's the key thing, of why I encourage the exploration into these kind of impossible questions, because yeah, it opens up to that, because yeah, there's a lot of folklore, behind. But let's talk about the tea. I saw you take a sip. Let's talk about the tea while it's still fresh on the
It's
palate.
yeah. So excuse me. It's got. I mean, honestly, like as boring as I can get. That tastes like Assam tea.
Hmm.
But like it's got that kind of characteristic maltiness of that kind of the
Hmm.
Assamica varietal as well, which always shows up in other places as well. That tannin, that kind of mouth drying effect as well.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean that's it when it comes to Assamica. Like, that's really the only like textbook thing you need to know about its character, is that it's more malty and brisk, um, which
It's
means
got a
it's,
strength to it.
yeah, it's more susceptible to being tannic. I wouldn't say that this tea is overly tannic. I did not brew it very hard. I think I had steeped it only for about 20 or so seconds, so I did do a really
Mhm.
light brew on it so that I could get more of the high notes out of it versus just being blown away with the astringency if the tannins are there. But again, like most Assamica that we get access to, because we drink a lot of it, I think most Kenyan tea, most Argentine tea, which is mostly what makes into tea bags and iced tea here in the States, are coming from the Assamica variety. Those are usually processed into more broken leaf, the CTC, or
Husky voice.
which that process inherently brings out more of the tannins in the processing. Because yeah, I did come to learn when it comes to tannin production, even if tannin is produced in the leaf, so there's two places where a tea master can control tannins. One of them is in the actual growing, and
Sure.
so that's like gyokuro or matcha tea. They use the shading because the tannins are produced as a protection mechanism against UV radiation. So if you
So you take away the UV.
yep. Yep. Pests also play a role too. So that's another reason why farmers would say, "Oh, I need to use these pesticides because the pests, cause the plant to create this protect." I think UV and pests are the two main things that the plant produces it. But even if the plant does produce it, it does not get released into the tea unless the cell walls are broken down,
Sure.
right? So, this is a little bit of a broken leaf. I would say that most of the breakage that happened here, though, probably happened post production,
Like in
versus
transit.
like in transit. This tea has lived a little bit of a life. But by the standards of orthodox teas coming from Assam, this is actually really quite full leaf. Usually you'll see it even more broken. I've gone to factories where the employees purposefully go out of their way to break the leaf, and I'm like in tears. I'm like, no, that's beautiful leaf. What are you doing?
So
I
we've had that conversation here before that's happened, and like
Mhm.
I think I had the exact same reaction of why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Um,
People pay big money for whole leaves.
Yeah, well, so, like from their market experience, all of their market experience has been with these like commodity buyers that are more than likely going to be putting the tea into a tea bag. Like, I've got a story
Sure.
with one of my clients that makes tea bags. That's specifically, the market that they're targeting is grocery store, and, like I think like older women who, are just they want the tea bag. And I had a brokered pretty large deal for a beautiful black tea. And the tea was ready to ship. The growers sent the photo, and the grower was really proud. They were like, oh, we actually made this higher quality, which I always tell the farmers, like, please don't do that, because then they're going to expect that every year. But they were really proud. They we went out of their way to make this beautiful batch of tea. And I sent it to the client, and they were upset. They said, no, this needs to be broken grade. We're putting this into tea bags. And I'm like, hey, I had no idea. Like, you know, so the farmer actually had to break the leaf there. It was really sad. And they ended up losing like 10%, you know, to dust. When you do that, you end up losing dust. It was really a heartbreaking thing. But
it's kind of depressing.
It is. It's depressing, but it's so weird, the disconnect, you know, from the commodity established tea market to, you know, the quality specialty tea that you've, you know, kind of jumped into. But it's valid. I mean, the fact that you're new to tea, Colin, and you just immediately jumped into this type of tea and this style of service and appreciation of tea, I think really validates the power of this market, you know, because like people established in the industry that are selling tea bags or blended teas, they'll taste a tea like this and say like, oh no, yeah, I can tell this is better quality tea, but the market just wants tea bags. The market just wants blended tea. They just want that. And
see, that's okay, so I've heard that a lot, and my big thing about that is that I feel like if you want to say that, that's fine, but my big issue is that how many of the people that you're referring to in the market here have actually had this tea, though? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just haven't been exposed to it yet. Yeah.
Right. And like that's not to say that, you know, like tea, like we've discovered that tea has to be this whole leaf to be good. Like there are good broken teas, like, you know, but yeah, I feel like you say that all the time. Well, people they really just want the tea bags, and people that I talk to, you know, they're like, oh, you're just so weird with this. Like, you know, I just want the tea bags. Like, you know, they're so much easier. This takes too long, and I'm like, you haven't tried it though. You haven't done it though, because it doesn't take that long to make good tea. Like, when I'm at work, I just drop a pinch of leaves in the mug, and just wait for them to sink, and drink it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like that takes like no time, just about as much time as a tea bag does.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's honestly in my experience, I feel like it's mostly just they've never tried the higher quality tea, and so they don't realize why it's worth that extra effort, or maybe extra money or whatever. Why that whole leaf looking nice is part of the experience, I guess. But I don't know. That's been a rant of mine lately.
No, it's valid. It's good, and we got to keep it flowing. I mean, I just had a friend on Reddit come in, ping in, say hello, miserable badger, from the UK. So we have a friend here watching from the UK, and we're talking about tea bags, miserable badger, and the move from tea bags to loose leaf tea, full leaf tea. I'd love to hear your opinion, on this. Like, you say can't beat tea. I'm sure tea is such an important part of your culture and community. Do you feel that we need tea bags, or have you started to explore loose leaf tea or single origin teas? We'll see.
And I think whole leaf tea, I learned from you, actually is not even the best way to describe the stuff. That single origin tea is, I think, what's the real important thing there.
Yeah, it is. It is. But even that word has been co-opted. A single origin from my warehouse. How, like...
Right. It's not exact enough to really matter,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I like to tell people, like, rather than just attaching to labels, like, sure, we need the labels to generally describe something, but Yeah, that's why I just like to use the term clean tea. And what does that mean? Well, not dirty, but it also just means when you drink it, your body like feels better than before, you know. Okay, so we talked about the briskness and kind of the boldness that comes with Assamica tea. I've also associated the energetics of Assamica tea to be also quite bold, and I'm feeling it. Like, I'm not like
Oh yeah.
crazy energetic, but I'm feeling it, and it feels good. Like, it's kind of feeling like my skin is kind of like tickling outside of itself. It's kind of an
Is
interesting
it
way to
about to
describe
fall
it.
off, Elise?
My skin's gonna fall off. Oh my god.
Yeah. Say so. This is like, and I. This is not my favorite way to describe tea. But the energy that I get from this tea is very similar to like the energy that I would get from like drinking coffee, right? Like it's
Yeah,
just like it's a
you
very
feel it.
intense, very punchy. Like we went from 0 to about 55. And so it's yeah, but like that's that's what the tea is used for. I mean, like
Yeah.
typically,
Uh huh.
like that's what made the tea popular is like its use in like something like in like a breakfast blend, which
Hmm.
people would drink more like coffee. So it's just like, yeah, that's kind of what I expected, I guess.
I like yeah, it's like coffee, but the bigger difference I think from the energy that I get from an Assamica tea versus coffee is that it passes. Like, and it's pretty easy for it to pass. Like, and if it's really
Sure.
bothering you in your body equilibrium, you can freaking eat a cracker and it's gone, you know? But like with coffee, sometimes it can leave you wired for hours and leave your stomach feeling uncomfortable. And, not all Assamica tea, like CTC, if I have like a tea bag and drink the whole thing, yeah, I'll be feeling off for some time. And that's the difference between clean tea and not clean tea. When I use the term clean, it doesn't mean wash and polished. Um, but, it just means like it leaves your body feeling better, and if I'm not seeking this like quick buzz, yeah, I'm not going to choose an Assamica tea to drink. If I need
Right.
that, I will. And some people are really sensitive to it. They get headaches. I get headaches. If it's not clean, I get like this like pounding, like twitching headache behind my eyeball. And I feel it immediately when it's
See,
not
that
clean.
doesn't like happen to me as much. My heart races a little bit when that happens.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I felt that before for sure.
And like I've only ever experienced that from like one tea before, and that was like really disappointing. But
Um, okay, on the monsoon harvest on this tea, I know we don't have like a first flush to side by side it with, but um, a question that I could pose, maybe it's something that you've thought about, Colin, and we can have some back and forth on it. Is there is general understanding among the tea master community or tea making community that processing, like harvesting and processing teas during a heavy rain season, will like dilute the character of the tea. That's why they say, oh, make sure that like you wait until 10 a.m. to harvest the leaf versus first thing in the morning because you're going to be, taking up the leaf while it still has the extra moisture in it, which affects the processing as well. But is that something you've heard about or thought about, questioned?
yeah, and so for me, like it wasn't necessarily like framed as diluted so much as like, oh, it's not so harsh and it's like sweeter. And that's how I've always kind of like considered it, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and we'll definitely agree. And like that is something that I've noticed here, especially because I'm so the with the cow drink as I called it, that's it's a harsher brewing style, right? Because like it's just kind of the leaves are just kind of in the water for some time. I don't
Yeah.
really measure it. I don't deal with it,
Mhm.
and it hasn't gotten tannic or anything like that, and so like that kind of subdued nature that I've kind of noticed, I feel, is just in like that astringency level and kind of like that harshness of the tea. Whereas this kind of feels like it's sweeter, maybe softer, but I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, but
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just asking your thoughts on it. Again, we don't have the first flush
mm,
to compare it to, right? That would be helpful if we were comparing like this exact farm's first flush to this monsoon flush. I
mm,
have done that in other practices before, other tastings and other education sessions that I've done, and have seen that the intensity has diluted. I think that's like kind of the difference between like first and second flush in Darjeeling teas, which we did do on this podcast
mm.
before.
Well, I
Um,
mean, Darjeeling teas are so green anyway. I feel like that's
yeah,
gonna be there no matter what.
yeah, yeah. But
The
yeah, we
first
had
flush anyway.
noticed that the first flush was like more intense, like
Mm,
because like that's the first flush during the winter season when the plants go dormant. They are producing all of these protection mechanisms, and that first flush that comes out is just jam packed with all of it. And so by the time you get to the next flushes, be it the second or third flush, going into the monsoon really is used. I've seen only really used in nomenclature for tea in Assam. They have heavy rains there. Um, that yeah, the later harvests tend to be like softer and sweeter, and maybe some of the like unique characters can come out, versus the intensity of the first flush.
sure. See, and I can't think of a time that I've had a first flush of something, so I don't feel like. But
Yeah. No, yeah, I've done it, and yeah, the first flush tends to be, more intense. And some people are
mm,
looking for that, So like preferences are preferences. Um, I
so I
tend to
know
like things
I'm
softer and sweeter.
I'm definitely one of those people. This is on, and that was like something that I did kind of think about, like the moment, like within the first time trying this, is that the Assam black teas, the Assamica varietal, tends to not be something that I go for because of that kind of like intensity and stuff. But maybe it's because I'm drinking too much that's from the first flush, I guess. But
It's
I have no
possible. I
idea.
mean,
Yeah.
what I think it plays a big part, like the type of tea, like the origin, because like I was saying, most Assamica tea is going towards the more commodity production, which is inherently the terroir of that is
Mm,
more oppressive and intense, and going to bring out more of that intensity. Like I've had friends that they refuse to drink Assam teas because all of their experience had been with like breakfast teas or Assam tea bags, and they always got headaches. But for good reason, it's a very brisk, intense cultivar. But then they taste a tea like this, and they're like, okay, all right, so it's not umbrella all Assamica, but definitely got to be mindful of where it's coming from.
yeah. Hey, so apparently I've actually been muted this entire time, so this will be interesting.
Wait, is anybody on your Twitch?
Somebody is now, but like I apparently forgot to hit one of the buttons on my end too, so I have no audio for myself for that entire first bit of that. So that's interesting.
I have your audio.
Okay, I'm glad you do.
It's a
Oh,
good thing I ran my audio recording. I usually don't. I just leave it to you. But okay, that's good. I'm the one. See that you've been not a streamer for so long now. You know.
yeah, but I'm a professional like videographer and like shit like that. Like, I have a job title and stuff. Like, that's bad. I'm gonna get some more water to boil real quick,
Got it.
because if you're up for it, I think it would be a great time to swap teas as
Let's
well.
do it. I was ready. Yeah, I just boiled my water fresh. I'm ready to go.
Cool. I've got a yeah. I'm just gonna boil a little bit more water here.
Get it. Yes, technical difficulties. All right, so our friend from the UK answered the question. They say, I believe it's not the bag that makes the tea better or worse, but rather the leaves themselves. I think, though, that the way the tea market has developed results in tea bag producers to use almost exclusively low quality fannings. But the simple and fast access to everyday tea bags puts me also in the position to drink tea solely from tea bags rather than loose leaves. Interesting. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your perspective on that. Very useful to understand that. Miserable Badger, are you aware that all tea bags are made of plastic and release microplastics into your boiling water? That's an interesting little factoid that always surprises people. The microplastics in tea bags?
I mean, I guess I didn't think about it, but I'm sure it happens.
It does happen. Yeah, there's very few tea bags that are not made of plastic. Even the paper ones. Like, I'm sure you've tried to put a piece of paper into water, and what happens to it? It dissolves, right?
Yeah.
So, even paper tea bags are lined with a layer of plastic to keep them from falling apart.
Say one of my cheddars, bog body here. She says, there are 100% linen tea bags, and
They exist, yes.
got a few of those, but
Yeah, they exist. The original ones were linen.
yeah,
They exist. They're just more costly, much more costly. And when we're
Yeah.
talking about tea bag production, like, they're not wanting to put any investment into the tea bag. I mean, most of, like, when you're buying tea bag, I think the number was like 90% of the cost when you're buying something is the marketing,
mm.
right? So that
The
leaves
logos and the branding and the stuff. Yeah,
yeah. Which means, there's very little left for everything else. So yeah, that's why our friend from the UK on Reddit answered my question very thoroughly. Thank you. And had mentioned that tea companies are kind of forced to use lower quality fannings for tea bags. They kind of have to, like the tea bag
Yeah.
filling machines, they have these augers that, like, they'll have a huge hopper at the top that tons of leaf can fit inside, but all of that has to get condensed down into a tiny little hole that they're going to pack into the tea bag. So, if you put a higher quality tea, it's just going to break the shit out. That's what I was telling you, my client. They were like, oh, you have to break this tea down for us. It is possible, and even outside of linen, there has been some modern advancements for, like, plant-based plastics, but those also are more costly. So, expect to pay more. But yeah, if you are not
Just struggle.
interested in ingesting plastics and microplastics, and you love tea bags, this is extra questions and work you'll have to put in to find a product that works for you.
Throw the leaves in the mud. Pour the water on the leaves.
Yeah, easy.
Wait
right?
for it to sink.
No ball sack needed. Oh, sorry. Did I say that? Sorry.
So I don't know what your leaves look like, but my Ruby 18 leaves here are much thicker boys than the last ones.
Yeah, mine unfortunately in my own storage, it's my fault. They're pretty broken. Usually this tea is very wiry, very full like yours. But I'm fine. I mean, that's the thing that's cool about, like, broken leaf. Like, yes, technically you can get good tea in a tea bag if you take good leaf and break it down. Um,
Uh,
yeah, you could do that, but then it makes it less competitive in the market.
Worms.
Are you okay? Wait, what happened? What just happened? What'd you just say?
What? Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was showing off the leaf on my stream, and one of my chatters says Verms.
Okay, okay. I was like wondering. I was like, wait, what's going on? I was like really confused.
I'm sorry. I just like kind of forgot we were recording a
I thought
podcast for
you
half a second.
you like burnt your finger with the hot water or something. I don't know. I thought you said burns.
No, I did find a Milky Way on my desk though, and ate it. So
I see. Well, hopefully that
just
doesn't affect your tasting capabilities.
listen. Knowing Ruby 18, it's going to complement and pair just
Yeah.
nicely.
So the reason why we chose Ruby 18 is because it's what we had access to. But this tea variety, which was developed by the Taiwanese government, has Assamica variety. It's a hybrid between that and what's called shan cha, which is like the mountain tea in Taiwan. Which is really cool
And
that you got some. That Mountain Stream Teas hooked you up with some.
say, I've got a question in my chat just about what we're drinking. So we started with some Monsoon Magic from Tilet here, from Elise, which is just a second flush black tea from Assam in India. And then because it's an Assamica varietal tea, and we're just kind of comparing it here to a Ruby 18, which, as Elise just said, has lineage with Assam and with Assamica, and the wild one in Taiwan. It's like late for me. I'm an old man these days. I get up early. I go to bed early. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Yeah, they're like cousins. They're like distant cousins.
Well, I thought that Ruby 18 would be the son, the child.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there was probably some evolution, and again, it's like well known that the Assamica plant that's used in this cultivar is via Burma. I don't know how relevant that is, but again, that goes back to what we were saying before, that the Assamica variety is something that was probably not just in India.
Right.
And where it came from, is a fun little mystery to try to figure out. And within the realm of the tea education world, it's very controversial. And you think, man, it's just tea. Why is there controversy? Like, what's the tea about the tea? Like, the tea has so much tea.
If you're asking what the tea is about the tea, you have not hung out around here very often.
People are always like, what? There's so much tea about tea. It's big time. It's big time. And it goes long in history. And, as colonization, it has been like a main tool and culture spreading, mechanism of colonization. Oh, pretty color. Nice,
Yeah.
rich, dark color. Thanks for sharing with us, Colin.
There have been literal wars fought over tea, and I love to remind people of that, and they go, "You're right, there have." I'm like, yeah, like it's not. I don't understand why we have to compare tea to like wine all the time and shit. I'm like, you can track a lot of Western history through like wine and music. You can track a lot of history of like the rest of the world through tea, to be quite honest. There's that spicy note in the aroma of the wet leaf.
In contrast to the tea we just had, it's interesting because it's more intense. Like the texture, it's like more harsh and intense than the last tea, which is surprising, right? Because you think Taiwanese is more craft and, you know, more skill, but there's more complexity. There's definitely more character and kind of like sweet, unique notes that are coming through in it. Yeah, very different, but more like earthy. It's like earthy and smoky too, compared to the other one. The other one was like more, you know, light. Like the only intensity that came from it was like that briskness.
So the word that comes to mind right now for me is definitely botanical.
Botanical, nice. That's a good word.
Yeah. You know, that kind of like sassafras, that kind of those like herbs that kind of sit around. There's almost like a hint of like oregano, almost maybe
Mm-hmm.
some thyme,
Yeah.
but it's really quite botanical and herbaceous, and yeah, it's and that's why I really like Ruby 18. It's just so fucking weird.
It is. It's a unique one. You know, it's so cool how like this was discovered, but I mean, it wasn't purely magic. Like they experimented with dozens and dozens and dozens, you know, breeding things and getting the new results and
When the science.
yeah. Yeah, there's science. There's science in tea. Our friend Tef says if tea does not have tea, then it is grass. How does that make you feel?
Wait, I'm so confused. Why?
Oh no, but I was just thinking about that. You know, we could make a joke. We could make a meme out of this. We could make a whole TikTok series about how wine has probably only started like a Thanksgiving night family argument, while tea has actually started international wars. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not. It's not far off. Fuck.
Freaking wine. That's why I don't like wine, man. Every time. It's like
Okay.
it always elevates it to the next level.
Hey, so I've got an interesting question from my chat here.
Yeah.
And we've got an interesting question from Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go actually let Bitcoin in, but yeah,
Okay.
ask away. I'm here.
So Bogbody here says, how do you taste notes and things when those things haven't been added? So you're talking like how do you taste like things like sassafras and oregano and like the botanical stuff, right? That's what I'm assuming you're saying here. And like there is no really, I don't really have an answer to that other than just that like I you know I do my best to like taste to like note how things taste because like I know that I drink tea and I drink wine and stuff and I like to look for things. So like um you know like if I've ever so sassafras tastes like is what root beer tastes like, you know. So like this, you know, I sip it and I think about it and I'm like, you know, like I've had root beer and so like I just kind of know that. But like the specific name for sassafras, you know, that's not something I'm going to come up with, but somebody would say, hey, so you know, sassafras is what, excuse me, is what root beer tastes like. And so I go, so that means that this must be sassafras because there's no way I taste like genuine root beer. It's kind of like a vibe. I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, what I always tell people is that there's no wrong answer in your tasting notes because you're tasting it and nobody else is.
Yeah, it's
So
your
like
feelings. Yeah, it's just your feelings. What are you feeling?
if you drink something and you go and you think in your mind this tastes like Hubba Bubba bubble gum, then by God it tastes like Hubba Bubba bubble gum to you, and that's fine.
Yeah. Well, because you know, with Ruby 18, among you know, like the tea art delete elite, the tea arts elite, you know, the preferred flavor note is camphor, which
Sure.
who the heck knows what camphor tastes like?
Tree bark?
Um, so do you know what it is? Tiger
I think
balm.
it's like a
Tiger balm.
tiger balm.
Tiger balm. The active ingredient in tiger balm is camphor.
I don't even know what tiger balm is.
Ooh, that's a fun one. You should explore that. If you ever have any kind of like muscle pains or aches, like that is the go-to. It's like a gel that you rub onto your skin that heats. It creates a heating sensation. And I believe the camphor is active in that as well. But it's an herb, it's a tree. Um, and certain communities in the world, like, they are very familiar with it, because it is more, more used and understood. But just because we don't use and understand and use that term doesn't mean that we're not capable of drinking this tea and having our own feelings. So it's all about intuition. Just like having confidence in your own feelings.
So something else that's come up in my experience in the past as well, is when I can taste something that I've never eaten before. Specifically, like the first time I had baozhang, I remember thinking this tastes like I've just eaten a flower petal, like specifically like a lily after like it rained or some shit,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never done that. Why the fuck would I do that? I'm sorry. That's just weird. But like, and I was bullshitting when I said lily. I don't actually know if that's what it was. It's just, like that was the first flower name that came out. But the point of what I'm getting at though is that like there are often times where like a flavor will like cause like an image to like come to the front of my mind, like a
Mm-hmm.
memory,
Mm-hmm.
like something that I smelled one time or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and the flavor is reminiscent of that smell or that experience somehow. And like petrichor, is that the smell of like freshly cut grass or like right after it rains or whatever it
Yeah,
is. I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it.
Yeah, like that thing. Like you can taste that in tea, but that's not something that you taste. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like it's that weird kind of connection.
Yeah.
Dust after rain. Yeah. So it's like that weird connection of like your taste and your sense of smell, and like your memory and kind of stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's why I always tell people before you try to like pinpoint flavor notes or like go to the flavor wheel, which can be fucking intimidating because it's like if you've
hmm
seen one of these flavor wheels, it's got all these different flavors that okay, which one is it? It's so much better just to like share a story or share a memory, even if it seems like it's ridiculous. Like, oh, this reminds me of a grandma. Okay, well, let's talk more about it. Like, what about your grandma? Oh, I just like have this vivid memory coming up of like walking into her house and this is what her house smelled like. And then you could ask more questions. Okay, well, like where was your grandma from or what did she cook or and it's always works. And
yeah.
it's like a light bulb. And once people have an experience like that one time, it's such a confidence builder for them to know, okay, this is all I got to do. I just have to be like confident in my feelings, and stand up for them too. Our feelings are valid. So if you're the type to tell someone, oh, you don't smell camphor, you don't know what you're doing. Like, fuck, no, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
that's the worst thing that you can do. You really have to hold space and validate everybody's feelings, especially if you're trying to encourage people to drink tea and to get into it with you.
Yeah.
Validating their truth is really important. How about the energy?
I, so as always, like it's a little not all over the place wild, but a little, kind of fresh, I guess, if you will. Like it's a buzzy energy. It's heady.
Yeah.
It's floaty almost.
My skin is not feeling like it's like vibrating off of my body like the last tea. This one's a bit more internal. Like I'm
Mm,
feeling like this heating sensation coming
sure.
from my core up. Definitely energetic, but it's different. Yeah.
Say there's like this warmth that kind of starts in your belly with this
Mhm.
one. You know.
Mhm. Mhm. Which is good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's cold where you are.
Holy fuck! Did you have to? It gets dark at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and when I wake up, it's like -4 Celsius.
Yeah, we're still like in the 70s here in the middle of the day, which is nice and sunny. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, so it's like I'm really sensitive to this warmth. I'm actually like feeling it in the front of my face now. So it's kind of weird
So
how it moves, you know?
here's the weird thing about Ruby 18 though, and I don't know if I'm just crazy, but like I always feel like I experience this with Ruby 18, where like I drink like a few infusions of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost feel high. Like I legitimately feel like I potentially just smoked something. I have no idea, and it's just like this. It's not like a bad like wired thing. It's just like I don't know. It's I can't really explain it other than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a comfy feeling though. It's not bad. It's just I always feel very talkative and very excited, and
Yeah, yeah. But it does wear away quickly. I don't think
sure,
it's
yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
that will, like, you
Well,
know,
that's why it's not bad because I'm not having a bad trip over here. Tea, the new psychedelic drug.
yeah, it's not the blue one. If the tea is blue, make sure you've got the next day off. Um, yeah, it's pretty amazing how, like, quickly tea and its energy can move through your system. Like I'll be hosting people for tea and they will, be afraid, like, oh shit, like I'm feeling jittery, or my body feels different now, and it's like, hey, just if you're at like a Chinese tea table, something you can do that the server will understand is just turn your cup upside down, and when
Mm.
you're ready, turn it back, and it's amazing. You just sit there for a second, maybe eat a peanut or two, and you're back to normal, and you feel like you're ready to drink tea again, or maybe you want to switch to a different type of tea. But yeah, really just got to listen to your body, and it does pass pretty fast.
And what kills me is that we talk about this like it's completely normal, and most people that I talk to that aren't big tea drinkers like we are, they go, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you seriously talking about drugs?" And I'm like, "No, it's just this is not something that I can easily explain. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You just kind of have to understand." And yeah, it's just always an interesting experience, and like that like description I just gave of this Ruby 18 does not help with that distinction between tea and drugs. However,
it's okay. It's okay. It's legal. We're fine. I've just like, I lean into it. Someone wants to
yeah,
crack a drug joke to me, especially as like an importer and a dealer. It's like,
sure.
it's never ending, the joke. So I just lean into it. And
It's an
I'm
importer
helping
dealer.
people. I'm just like, I'm helping people cut the edge off.
Jesus Christ, you're not helping. Whew.
So how's your are you looking, you need to go to sleep soon, huh? You've got
Yeah, I do.
a
I'm
9
like
to
really
5.
feeling it. Like this tea is really starting to wind me down too.
So what's
See that?
your technique or your strategy for whenever you're feeling, hyper energized, and you need to get into a restful state after tea?
Um, can I just say drink a beer?
Okay, yes, you can say that.
Taking a shower too, as well. Honestly, just kind of opening up my pores.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Um, I always tell people when it comes to tea, like,
Hmm.
there's caffeine, right? The caffeine is definitely playing a role in this whole thing, but you got to remember there's also L-theanine that's affecting the caffeine, and also giving you energy. And it could make your brain run a million miles an hour, trying to keep up with it. And that can leave you restless and awake, which is good if you need to, like, study something or write a paper, or, you have a task. But um, you could also channel that energy for, like, meditation, channel it to put yourself into a restful state. But that does require
It's
the mindfulness, of that.
it's not as like jittery of an energy so much as just being consistent. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Well, I do think that it is time for me to figure out how the fuck I'm gonna sleep now. But I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm sorry that I missed last week. This is very enjoyable.
Yeah, it is. It
I,
is. We gotta edit these and get them out. You know, we've got
I
eight.
know.
We've got eight now. That's it's enough to work with.
Yeah. I the whole like doing this type of stuff at work and then coming home to do it like is something that I have to remind myself that I do need to do that. Like video editing and stuff. I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But but regardless, thank you for joining me, Elise, and
Thank you
thank
for
you for letting me
joining
join
me.
you.
Yeah. Thank you for
And
coming out of your non-streaming cave to be a streamer for a second.
listen, I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt again. But
Yeah, I hope you have
yeah,
a great week.
yeah, you as well. Happy Thanksgiving,
Yo,
and
happy Thanksgiving.
yeah, and I'll see you next week. Okay,
Bye bye.
bye, Bitcoin. Have a good one.
You too. See you, Colin. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, now you'll get two of me. Two of me. Two of me. One too many. We'll get rid of it. Awesome. Cool. Let me go turn this audio off. My audio recording. And save it. Export it. Pococha, thank you so much for your patience tonight. Mr. Mars, thank you for being here. What is today? Today is the 22nd. What? Is it 22nd already? Dang. Alright, Reddit, I'm gonna leave you now. I will see y'all tomorrow night for some gaming, some digital card collecting, Gods Unchained crypto gaming. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful rest tonight. We'll see you later. Bye, Reddit. And Twitch and Facebook. I don't think I have any. I have one person on Twitch. I think it's just Tef on Facebook, so I'm just gonna say goodnight. I'll see y'all tomorrow night for some gaming. I hope y'all have a wonderful rest. Stay cool. See you soon.